So this video is a short history of skateboarding. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so in the 1920s, the first thing that ever resembled a skateboard was these things called ski skates. You might have seen them. They come in a pair, and they were three-wheeled, but the ones you see now are two-wheeled, but the one on the picture was the first sort of one that you got. That was the first one in the 1920s. So the next thing that resembled a skateboard came in the 1930s. It had three wheels. It was called a Skeeter Skate, and you could take the bars off and go between the two. It was a bit like a trolley. And you can see him here dropping in on the quarter pipe. Okay, so the next thing that came along was called the Skeeter Skate, and it's pretty similar to those things that you see kids going around on with three wheels today. And you can see the first resemblance of trucks here, and the handle was just like a broom. That was the only real difference, and it didn't have bushings either. So in the 1950s, surfers started making their own skateboards from roller skates and 2x4 pieces of wood. And then in the 1950s, the first mass industrially produced skateboard was made, but it didn't have bushings. You can see on this video Aaron Cairo having a go of a 1950s replica skateboard. So in the 1960s, skateboarding became unpopular for about a decade because there wasn't enough funding into research and development, and the wheels were just made out of things like aluminium or clay, and there were too many injuries at the time.
Skateboarding is becoming one of America's fastest growing sports. It's a sport that demands special skills and offers challenge and competition. Skateboarders are constantly finding new applications to the sport. Skateboarding certainly has movement and freedom and style.
So by the 1970s, skateboarding started to become more widespread, and you're seeing it in places like London. As you can see here, this is South Bank. So in the 1970s, a new skateboard material started getting used, and it's called polyurethane, and it was really grippy and it was fast, and everyone was excited about it and wanted to start using it. It was also safe too, which attracted people to it more. So here's a video of me doing a manual across the whole of the skate park. This will have been a lot easier than it would have been with clay wheels, because it was a lot more grippy and it was a lot faster, as I've already said. So towards the end of the 1970s, skateboarding started to become a lot less popular because insurance rates became a lot more expensive and most skate parks couldn't stay open. So people didn't like skateboarders, and they had this idea that skateboarders were part of some secret cult.
There have always been secret societies.
So it was assumed that if you're a skateboarder, you'd be always trespassing on people's land because there were no skate parks. But at this time in the late 1970s, there were still some skateboarders that had skate parks in their back garden, and there was a rise in popularity with people skateboarding half pipes. With the first person called Tommy Stewart, who built the first half pipe in 1977. This made skateboarding more popular. So in 1981, Thrasher Skateboard magazine came out, and soon after, in 1983, Transworld Skateboarding magazine came out. So now in 1985 you could become a professional skateboarder, and they were starting to have competitions which drove people to want to compete, which led to more boards being produced. And they'd have 7-ply maple wood skateboards with concave, which is the first sort of resemblance of a skateboard that looks similar to the sort you'd see now today. Then new skateboarders which were emerging, like Rodney Mullen, started inventing these new skateboard street tricks, which increased the popularity of skateboarding even more, which then opened up a new realm of possibilities for skateboarding. So after this peak in the mid to late 1980s, skateboarding then started to decline in the early 90s. And then again, skate parks started getting knocked down and skateboarders started trespassing again, and this gave skateboarding a bad reputation again. There were also some skateboarders who committed crimes which made the public suspicious of skateboarders, and it attached a bad stigma towards skateboarding. So here's something I just heard on this skateboard documentary with this person called Hippie Mike saying about when he used to skateboard at this time.
Had a bit of a bad rap in the 80s and 90s where people kind of turned against it, pushed those people aside. They were like, oh, you're a skateboarder? I remember having skateboarding on my resume as a hobby and being told I'm not going to get an interview because of it. And I was like, well, then I'm definitely leaving it on my resume.
Okay, so it's now the mid-90s in California, and there has now been a new law put in place that cities are no longer liable for any injuries that skateboarders have had. And there are now new skateboard companies emerging all around the world, and a new extreme sports competition has come out which is very popular, called X Games, and there is a new skateboard championship which has grown the popularity in skateboarding and inspired more new generations of skateboarders worldwide. And now with the popularity of X Games, more skateboarders were emerging, and the standard of skateboarding is now getting higher. Bowl skateboarding and street skateboarding is starting to become popular, and the new video game Tony Hawk Pro Skater has come out. Okay, so it's been the 2000s, and now it's 2010 to 2020, and a new competition called Street League has come out, and there's now big companies like Nike and Adidas supporting skateboarders. And in 2016, there was now talk of skateboarding potentially being in the Olympics. Some skateboarders had different opinions. Like, some skateboarders didn't like the idea of skateboarding being in the Olympics because there is so much variety in skateboarding with skate parks that you have, or skateboard styles. It would be very hard to judge in the Olympics in the same way that sports like running, etc. are judged. Nevertheless, skateboarding did go ahead in the Olympics in 2020, and even if it didn't go well, I think it's good that it got some people into skateboarding that may not have been into skateboarding before, and it helped to grow the sport even more, so I think that's positive. And I think if that can inspire people around the world more to get into sport, then that's a success in itself. So, thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and here's my Instagram, RowanPeterson15. I'll leave a link in the description below. Thank you.